And everyone is going to experience suffering. That's what separates me from this machine, is this machine will never suffer. What makes me human is my suffering. And when I look at Christ on the cross, I think, is that a joyful man? As he bleeds out and dies on a cross for humanity, is that man joyful? And I think the answer is yes, that even in his suffering, that's what Christ represents for me, meaningful suffering. You know, the story of Christ is that God became man for our betterment. So that means that he is the ultimate example, the supreme priest, the ultimate redeemer. If I look at Christ on the cross, I think that's very instructive. You don't see a lot of smiley face Christs on the cross. You don't see Christ on the cross dying and laughing with aplomb, in joy, in ultimate joy. But I think they should make some Christs on the cross in ultimate serenity, in ultimate joy. They always make Christ like this sad face, and that seems stupid. It seems like it's not deep enough. Like the artists who manufacture those crucifixes, it's almost like they're not seeing the full story. And the full story, I believe, is that Christ is in maximum joy in that moment. He is fully in his purpose. And if you can tap into how you can use your suffering to help other people, that is maximum joy. I always thought joy was, I get this and then I'm happy, or I do this and then I'm happy, or I get her and then I'm happy, or I make that and then I'm happy, or they respect me and then I'm happy. Or I always thought happiness was to be acquired by the things I would gain from life. That's why I was always grabbing. If I knew early on that happiness actually is in me offering all of my suffering up for other people as an instructive thing, or as something that could benefit man, then I maybe would have lived my life differently. So I guess the question I would ask anybody is how do you use your suffering to tap into your joy? How do you remix suffering into joy? I would ask anybody that. And not everybody has an answer to that. And those people who don't have an answer are not going to be happy people, because suffering is guaranteed. And unless you can take suffering and make it joy, or find suffering in your joy, not as a masochist, not as some S&M whipping yourself type of nonsense.
It's rearrange.
Yeah, how does your perspective change on suffering? How do you look at suffering like, this isn't suffering in the notional sense. This is actually my route to joy. That in and through the suffering is how I actually get to maximum joy. That's what the crucifix represents for me, and that would be the ultimate question. That's the ultimate question posed by Christianity.
So I went the whole route of the young people today, and especially then on the West Coast, into the drugs and Eastern religion and meditations and yoga and all these different things that I figured were going to satisfy me, and they did for hours or days at a time. But then I'd always come down and go, well, that didn't do it, because I always knew that when I'd find true happiness and peace, it would last.
And so you were just always searching.
Like crazy. Yeah. And I searched with my whole heart. And in all the Eastern religions and all the cults and all the world religions, they always gave some credit to Jesus Christ. The Muslims say that he was a prophet. The Christians say that he was an incarnation of the Godhead in his age. Yogananda and all these different Eastern teachers said that he had Christ consciousness. They always use words like Christ consciousness, Christ this, Jesus that. The Buddhists would even say he was a Buddha. He was another incarnation of God like Buddha was. And in all my searchings, I saw that all these people were pointing to Jesus. They're going, well, yeah, Jesus is one of the ways, but we're one of the ways. And they wouldn't all agree on anything except that Jesus was one of the ways. And then I looked into the Bible in John chapter 14, I think it is, or John chapter 6. Yeah, it's 6. Where he says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No one gets to the Father but by me. So they all gave him credit, and he only gave himself credit. And I went, well, that kind of eliminates everybody. They all say he's cool, and he says he's the only one that's going to get you there, so I guess I'm safe. So I started praying to Jesus. I did this all through intellectual reasoning and laid it out on the table and figured it out that if they all gave him credit and he only gave himself credit, and they all agreed on one thing, that he was one of the ways, and he only agreed that he was the only way. So I figured I had no choice but to go with him. And then I started praying to Jesus.
I always wanted a parent. I always wanted to be grounded. When I was young, I would ground myself. I'd come out in the living room, I go, guys, I'm grounded. And my parents would be like, okay, whatever, do whatever you want. I go, I'm gonna be in my room for an hour because I was bad. And I go walk and sit in my room and they're like, all right, do whatever you want. Because my parents were hippies. My dad was a drug dealer. I always wanted parents. I wanted structure. That's also why I like Hollywood, because you get a call sheet and it says, all right, everybody's gonna show up at this time and we're going home at this time. I like that. And that's what the Catholic faith gives me. It gives me a call sheet. It gives me a moral compass. It says, show up here at this time and go to sleep at this time and do these things and you'll live a righteous life. And you will, the closer you get to living the life of Christ, the more people will feel that in you, and the more, the easier your life will be, the more peace and serenity you'll have. My wires were crossed. I thought playing God would make me feel peaceful. But you're always gonna fail. You're always gonna... I come from a lot of shame. I come from a lot of shame. Before this, I was very shameful, guilty guy.
But you will be father?
Yeah, in March.
And what do you think the best gift a father could give a daughter is?
Unwavering stability, the Rock of Gibraltar, unmovable, unshakable. I think of it this way. I think it's true for men and women. When a little kid goes to a park and they've never been to a park before and they see a bunch of little kids playing and mommy and daddy are right here, they go out 2 or 3 steps, then they get scared and they come back and they grab the hand and the hand is there. And then they go out a little bit further and they take 10 steps and then they get scared and then they come back and they grab for the hand and the hand is there. That's a parent. The hand is always there. You can go out 20 steps, 30 steps, 40 steps. Okay, now I'm playing with kids. Oh, I got scared. The hand is there. That's what God gives me. That's what a good parent gives their child. The hand. I'm always here. No matter what, I'm always here. That's the gift of that I always wanted from my parents, that I hope to give to my child is stability, is to be a rock, an unmovable, unshakable, forever love, an unjudgmental hand. I'm always here. That's what I get out of Catholicism, is I get the parent that I wish I would have had.
I really want to speak to the fact that I've had some challenges in the last couple of years myself, and ultimately I believe that suffering leads to salvation, and in fact it's the only way. That we have to somehow accept and not deny, but feel our suffering and feel our losses, and then we make one of 2 decisions. We either decide to go through the gate of resentment, which leads to vengeance, which leads to self-harm, which leads to harm to others, or we go through the gate of forgiveness, which leads to grace. And your being here is an indication that you've made that decision already. You've made the decision to walk through the gate of forgiveness to grace, just as Christ did on the cross. He suffered terribly, and he was broken by it to the point of doubt and a feeling of absolute abandonment, which all of you felt. And then there was a decision to be made. And the decision was to look upon the people who were causing that suffering, or the situation that was causing that suffering, with compassion and with forgiveness. And that's what opens the gates of heaven for all of us. So I wish that for all of you. I wish that for myself. I know that, no matter what I've suffered, most of you have suffered worse than that. But that's why I admire you, because you're here. And you will have grace because this decision has been made. So.
In many ways, the life of a religious or the life of a monk is way easier. It's just an easier life. And that's really what I'm chasing, is an easier life. I'm chasing peace. I just want peace. I just want serenity. I thought I would get peace with certain fulfillment of human instinct. Okay, I make enough money, I'm peaceful. Oh, I'm making enough movies and I'm famous and I'm peaceful. Or But no, you're always grabbing, you're always needing.
Yeah.
You'll never fulfill it. It'll always be this needy life if you're operating on human instinct. And so when you start really believing that a God has your back, that God is a buddy, like not this scary thing, reverent but friendly, like this idea of forever love, no matter what you do, with no judgment, that I messed up in church. You know, I've done things in church while I've been doing this, living in the church. I've been living in a church now for 5 months, 6 months in California and here, and I've been messing up, you know. I've done terrible things in the church, you know, and I'm not even baptized, so I can't receive communion yet. So I'm not absolved of my sins. And so, but the fact that I feel guilty about the things that I'm doing that I didn't used to feel guilty about, feels like growth. I know people say, oh, I don't like Catholicism because of all that guilt. But for me, I need guidance. I need direction.